Hey everybody, I'm Adam.
And I'm Chris.
This is the Gamers Hall, and we are once again doing
DM Counterspells.
because we are trying to figure out the problem behind these.
Yep. So how is a DM gonna deal with those spells that players can't seem to not stop getting, or being problematic and overusing? Abusing.
Trying to abuse the rule set in order to get one over on the DM, or to just make life extremely easy for them, which is nice for players, but at the same time it's a headache for DMs.
Yeah.
Because they're here to have fun too. So hopefully in the last one you got some ideas from those 6 that we talked about.
Yeah.
And can deal with some of those problem spells and really not take it to your players, because we don't want you to destroy your players because they use these spells. We want you to make it difficult for them so it's fun for everybody.
Yeah.
So,
all right.
Which one are we starting with?
All right. Next 6 spells, starting with Banishment. 4th level, concentration, charisma, save. The problems that DMs are having with this is that they come in, the characters will cast Banishment on the big baddie, then they'll remember where its place is, that all the characters will surround it, there are already actions for it, they'll drop the spell or wait the full minute, and then when it pops up, dead. Or if your big baddie
so the perfect setup
isn't basically, but they're doing it all the time, or they're banishing something, dealing with that, and then perfect setup when it's done, because not very many combats last 10 rounds.
No, not many. So one, it's charisma save, which does not get used hardly ever. There's not many spells that say make a charisma saving throw.
Yeah.
So that right there tells me it's it's a pretty strong spell, which I have given and been on the receiving end of banishment spells in games I've played and DM'd. The time they banished one on me, I was running one of my Eberron campaigns, and they banished I believe it was a Glabrezu.
Okay.
Banished him so he couldn't fight in the particular area he was trying to fight, because he was flying around, he was shooting down, he was clamping on people and throwing. This is when they couldn't use fly or whatever. At least only one person could use fly, and they didn't want to go up there to him. So the Glabrezu was being a real pain. So one of them had banishment and went no, and banished him away. Well, what I had the Glabrezu do is he knew what was coming, because he knows what happened to him, so he prepared just as much as they prepared for him. So it doesn't say that the Glabrezu comes back like perfectly, or the creature. It doesn't say the creature comes back perfectly the exact way it left, right?
Right.
That doesn't mean it can't come back doing this, or
dodging,
blocking, or casting a buff spell, or pulling out a different weapon, or just, well, depending on where it went, what did you send it to?
Yeah, well, I mean, if it lasts the full the full duration of the banishment spell, they actually, if they're from another place, they actually stay
right
there.
Yeah. Well, Eberron works a little different, since demons technically come from Kyber. I say still kinda. Well, he can come from the plains too.
Okay.
But this one particularly was actually part of the Lords of Dust in a way, and he was from Kyber, the underworld in Eberron, so he couldn't really just be sent to an outer plane. Right. It's not where he came from. So I just had him come back, because honestly I wanted them to fight it. It was way more interesting for them to fight it than just to say bye.
Right.
So maybe that's not the perfect example, but I had him prepared. So just have the creature be ready. I mean, if depending on what they send away, I mean, obviously, if it's a dumb creature, well, it's not going to prepare much, right? It's not going to do anything to stop it. But
if you banish a bear, it's going to come back very confused.
Very, very confused. But do people use banishment on like creatures like that? I mean, usually they're using it on something pretty nasty.
Mostly intelligent creatures.
Yeah, they want the nastiest thing that's going to crowd control, damage output, or just be the hardiest thing to go away for hopefully a minute.
Yeah.
And then they deal with it, right? So that creature usually understands how to survive because it's been around long enough. It's going to prepare. Maybe not the best way for a DM to deal with it, because this spell is actually, honestly, I love this spell. It's great. It's a great toolbox spell, but just don't let your players have all the advantages. They just because they send him away doesn't mean it doesn't understand what happened to it. I mean, it knows, right? It knows what happened to it. So let it prepare. Let it know who did the thing, or let it be ready. Have a readied action. Like, I don't think that's out of the realm of possibilities. Like, when it comes back, if it has access to fireball, it's just first thing I see.
It could be dodging and then have a readied action on top of that, so all those attacks have disadvantage, and then
it couldn't dodge and have that ready. I could spend its action in order to ready it, wouldn't it? Because it dodge.
Good point.
Right.
Good point.
But it could dodge if it's a combat-oriented thing. So when it comes in, it's like, no, I'm not gonna let you hit me. Or it could just say, the first thing I see, I'm dropping hold person or hold monster, or I'm gonna drop fireball, or I'm gonna grab the very first thing I see. If it's near me, I'm going to grab it and I'm gonna stick it in my mouth and I'm chomping on it. Players would be really confused, and if they give you lip about it, you just go, well, what did you expect to happen? You're doing it to hit. It's just as smart as you. Why would it not do it back to you?
So here's the question, though. You've readied an action to grab this grab one of the PCs and chomp on them. Whose reactions go first? The PCs or the?
I mean, you can just go in initiative order. Whatever thing thinks faster, which would be a technical.
So whoever like has the highest initiative. That's the reaction order.
I mean, you can pull a Magic the Gathering thing and play with the stack if you really want to.
Please not do that.
But I would just say, well, who has the highest initiative? Or if you want to, you can say who has the highest initiative bonus, giving those characters that have taken the time to attempt to be first in every round the chance to react faster. So if you're rogue with initiative of +10, or a barbarian that has advantage on initiative, you can just say, well, that adds an extra +5 to whatever I would say. Then they react first. They are ready. At any moment they're like, oh, I got this, and then they'll do it, and you just let them go. Might not help the DM out that much, but then again,
I mean, it's a whole lot better than the creature coming back dumbfounded and just getting wailed on.
What happened to me? Yeah, because it's not hold person, it's not hold monster, it's not a stun. It is sending something somewhere else for a brief time, and then coming back. It's not like the Warlock ability that the Nine Hells one, or the Fiendish Pact Warlock.
I don't even know what you're talking about.
It has ability like Banishment, sends them through hell.
Okay.
That's a whole different story, by the way. If that Warlock does that to you, there's no preparing when you're coming back. You're getting thrown through hell and then launched back out. Yeah. Anyway, I think that's the best way to handle Banishment is be prepared. Let them be prepared. You're not going to counter that spell in any particular way. You're just going to have to say, okay, I'm prepared for you just like you're prepared for me.
Yeah.
And then go about your business. What's the next one we got?
Conjure Animals. 3rd level spell that requires concentration.
This one.
And I'll tell you right now,
is a headache sometimes.
I have had many problems with this spell. And here's my gripe about Conjure Animals as a DM. Honestly, there are plenty of ways to deal with this spell. But what I hate about this spell is that, one, everyone tends to grab the same animals. I'm going to get all the wolves. They all have advantage, and they all do 2d4 plus 2 or whatever. But the thing I hate about this spell is, like, I don't even mind that that's what's happening. It just drags combat. It drags combat so much further than it should. Because, I mean, if you're a player and you're actively doing it as fast as possible, it's really not that bad. But your average person is like, okay, I'm gonna move this person here, I'm gonna roll, and oh, I've got to do that 7 more times. And like this, a new player, or sometimes just a not very experienced player, that like their turn ends up taking like 7 minutes.
Yeah,
and it sucks.
So the first way to deal with this spell that I've dealt with, had a guy that he played a druid, and I was playing with him. He'd summon a bunch of goats. What we ended up doing with him, good buddy Clay, we just ended up saying, okay, roll all of them to hit. We'll roll the first one. Does it hit? Yes. Roll a strength check, or see if it gets knocked prone, because he summoned goats and knocked him prone. So we just do it rapid fire. Right, roll to hit, roll to hit, roll to hit, roll to hit. All right, those are out of the way. They're done. Speed up that. Don't let the players take too long on this. If they summon these animals, you must, as a DM, say, okay, you have to tell me what you're doing with these immediately. The next one big gripe about these things is that they can cover so much space. Don't forget the area in which things operate, right?
Okay.
You only have so many squares around if you're playing on a map, obviously, a grid or hex map. There's only so many spots that these things can be around, right? Well, if you're saying they all go at the same time, which normally most people would play it that way. Sometimes,
well, yeah, because as soon as they're summoned, they roll their own initiative.
Yeah, they roll their own initiative. I've even heard of some people rolling separate initiatives. Don't ever let anybody ever do that.
Oh,
period.
Jesus.
Never let them roll separate initiatives. Yes, at the game store, somebody talked about each one had its own initiative and go in on its own. No. You let it. I personally say those animals go right after you. You summon them, you make them go after you, because I don't feel like filling out another spot on my chart on where you are on initiative. I just said, that's your thing? Okay. You go, then they go. So much easier to deal with.
See, I always made them roll their own initiative because there's that chance that they roll high and it actually puts them, it lessens one of those turns. Gives the enemy time to deal with them, maybe.
Right. Yeah. It's a good one. It's more of just for, as a DM dealing with different things, I was just like, well, if I just make sure it's after them, I know that when they do their turn, this thing can happen, and I don't ever have to keep up with it again, and nobody else does.
Yeah.
It's just, this is when it happens. So that's, because really what Conjure Animals is, it's a brain slog of a spell. It just slows everything down. It's not that it's powerful. I mean, it's good.
It can definitely be abused and kind of powerful.
Right, but
I mean, you have a druid that can solo a lot of things at this point.
Yeah, but most of the creatures have low to hit. And the wolves have advantage when they're all around.
It loses some of its effectiveness in the later levels, but at the same time, there's not very many people out there playing high level.
True, but just here's a preparation for it. If you know that your party is going to summon animals, add more enemies.
See, that's bogging combat down so much more too.
Two more guys with a bow is not going to be that much worse than than when you know that they're going to throw that out there. You know for a fact these guys are going to throw this spell down to hit you. You just plan ahead, say, okay, fine, I'll just add two more of my own things and just put them at the same initiative order. I have, instead of having 2 archers, I have 4 archers. They all shoot at the same initiative order, keep them in a nice little neat group, and just let them shoot. Just 2 more rolls and little extra hit points that stack, but yeah, it's not terrible. And you can kill these things, obviously, AoE.
AoE is definitely going to take care of them. Now, one gripe I have is that I hate that Dispel Magic does not get rid of all of them.
Yeah,
you have to dispel each one individually.
Yeah, because they are a separate magical entity or a magical effect per creature, depending on how you look at it.
Yeah,
you know.
I feel like you should just be able to dispel magic on the person concentrating on it to drop it.
Yeah, but they're not the magical effect. So
yeah, well, I mean, it's just like if you dual cast haste on somebody, you have to spend dispel magic on each person.
Right.
You can't do it on the concentration.
Yeah,
I get it. I just don't like it.
Right. But the funny thing is, this is another concentration spell. So hitting the caster also removes the stuff, because I believe the last one we did, we found out almost every one of those, except for what? One?
The last video, all of them were concentration. This video, everything except for one is concentration.
So I know that everybody's like, concentration's really hard to get rid of, but
especially when someone has advantage because of combat casting. Let's
be honest, most intelligent things know when somebody casts a spell and know who did what. And if they see a druid-looking person and suddenly see a pack of wolves, they're not going to be stupid and go, well, I'm going to hit the paladin. No, they're going to shoot the guy that just summoned reinforcements, right?
If they can make it to him.
I'll shoot them. And they have to run up to him, you know?
That's if they have range.
Yeah. But this is a tough one to deal with because it changes the dynamic of any battle. You can also set up... there was one time in Dungeon Mad Mage, I set up a Hobgoblin readout where you guys had to try and get through, but the Hobgoblins had set it up where only one to two creatures could possibly get through a certain area. So if you just have your monsters or your creatures just set up in specific locations where these things can't come to hit them at full advantage, like you can only have...
They're having to spread them out further.
Right, because 2 to 3 wolves is not as bad as 7 wolves attacking.
Yeah, until someone summons, like, what is it, 6 or 8 giant owls, and they all have flyby attack?
They all have flyby attack, which, if that's the case, just remember also what's above you, too. I mean, if you're playing this, go, well, you know what, you're in a forest. These owls are huge. How are they all going to somehow make it through this and get to you? You can, as a DM, say, hey, look, not all 8 are going to be able to make it to it in this one round of flyby, no matter how much you want to say it. This is 6 seconds worth of movement, and you're trying to shove 8 creatures weighing a bunch of pounds, taking up large amounts of space all through one particular spot. Yeah. Like, just say, okay, 6 can make it through. That's it. You get 6 to hit. You can send your other 2 anywhere else you want, but I'm going to tell you right now, you only get this many that can get to this spot. I've done that to somebody with wolves. Somebody was like, well, I'm going to run a wolf up, and it's going to hit, and the other one runs up, and it's going to hit, and then this wolf will move back. It's like, no. You're going to... You can do this, but you're only going to get so many up here, and then they're going to stop.
Well, also, like, once that wolf moves and attacks, it needs to move back on its turn, not a different wolf's turn.
Right.
That's kind of... Yeah, that's
a little... But that's what they were talking about doing, is that these wolves would come in packs and explain. It's like, no, you're going to move them all one time, and we're going to deal with it at that one time. You can explain how it runs, you can explain how it moves, and then we'll go over how many times you hit. And if they don't like it, you can just say tough.
Yeah.
I don't want to deal with this.
I think it'd also be helpful if the person rolled just on the side, have a sheet of paper, start rolling a bunch of d20s, writing down, like, okay, so the first one was a 13, the second one was a 7, third one was a 15.
That's a great idea.
I got an 18 on this one. I got a 4 on that one that obviously missed.
Right, yeah, do it during other people's turns. When somebody else is doing their turn, just say, okay, hey, while that's happening, can you go ahead and roll these 4 rolls for your creatures? Just have them preset, because you know what they're going to do. You know what they're going to do. And tell your party, or tell your people, if you cast that, you know what they do on your turn, or on their turn, however you want to run it, and then go ahead and roll those die rolls and then just write them down. That way when it comes up, you say, okay, these 4 guys attacked, one got a 17, 16, 14, and one got a 1, and then you just go, okay, hit, miss, this one tripped and did whatever, who cares. Speed all that up. That spell is not so bad as long as you speed all that up. Yes, it can be really powerful, and it's not something that should be taken away from the players, especially for druids that don't have a whole lot of really damage-dealing spells.
Yeah, we're not going to talk about Shepherd Druid.
Yeah, when I talk about Shepherd Druid, that takes a whole new level of that spell. But just make them speed that up. That spell is not that bad if they speed up their process.
So either have a lot of AoE, cast some magic missiles at the caster, or do anything to hit them and make them drop that concentration, or counterspell it.
Yeah, but trying to find a venom way to get around it, and counterspell is a bit on the nose on this one. So
counterspell is a bit on the nose for all of them.
Yeah, counterspell works for every one of them. Yeah. It is the perfect counterspell.
Well, let's go to the next one.
All right.
The next one is going to be Polymorph. 4th level, concentration, wisdom saving throw.
All right. So first of all, what possible problem could people have with Polymorph?
You got 2 different sides of the spectrum here. So you have people that are polymorphing the big baddie and like putting them into like a bag of devouring. And
it's cute.
Yeah, but I mean it just straight up kills them. But also they're polymorphing them and doing other things. But mostly, like, that's not even really the big problem. The big problem is I'm gonna polymorph myself into a T-Rex and start wreaking havoc, or I'm gonna polymorph this person into a T-Rex and just start wreaking havoc. It's the I'm gonna polymorph into a giant ape and I have all these attacks. It's the polymorphing into stronger creatures.
So I've only dealt with one person that's ever really used polymorph to do that, and I believe there's a cap on how high they can go. Polymorph? Character level.
The CR is the character level.
Okay. Well, there's one way you can deal with this, and it's pretty easy, which also works for druids, is if you haven't seen it, or you don't know, you haven't read about it, you haven't studied it, you don't understand what that thing actually is, you cannot become it. Period. As a DM, you can say you don't have knowledge. Just because you can polymorph something into things doesn't mean your imagination can create that through the spell. You cannot just say, well, I'm going to, you know...
Then other players are going to say you're taking away their fun.
Well, they're taking away your fun. That is never an excuse. If a player is trying to run over your game, it's never an excuse for them to say, oh, well, you're being mean and taking away my fun. It's like, well, I have to play this game too. So that is a terrible excuse for them too. You're DMing for them. They have to make sure it's fun for you. So if you tell them, where have you seen a T-Rex before? And they tell you, oh no, you're like, well, you can't be a T-Rex.
Maybe it's time for you to go to Cholt and do a little adventuring there. Yeah. Then you can turn all the T-Rexes you want.
Sure. Have you want to go on an adventure there? You want to go on a quest to unlock all the beast modes you can turn into? Cool. Then anytime somebody has polymorph and becomes a T-Rex, I know that's the one we're harping on because it's the biggest beast, then achievement unlocked. Great. If not, stick to the things you know.
Yeah, what if somebody reads about it in a book?
Well, it better be pretty descriptive, because just because I've read about unicorns does not mean that I can 100% cast a spell and make a actual unicorn.
Oh yeah, just because I read a book on how to take an engine apart and put it back together doesn't mean I can actually do it when time comes.
Right. Yeah, I've glanced at a book on C++. I know I can't code things, but because I read that book, I can somehow code. No, polymorph allows you to create something with your mind, with the spell that you know and you understand, at least somewhat understand, functionally. Make the players understand what they're turning something into functionally. That's why classically you turn something into a toad. That's what the witch does. It polymorphs something into a toad. Everybody knows what a toad is. You know exactly what it looks like, sounds like, smells like. Everybody's dealt with a toad in their life.
Yeah.
You know, frog, toad, something of that nature, an amphibian like that, and said, okay, cool. Or fish, you know what that is. But these exotic creatures, make them have the knowledge for it. If they're gonna go out that far and become that strong, they need to have the knowledge to do so. That's why they're a wizard. They're supposed to be intelligent. Make them study. Make them do their homework. It's like, take your downtime, which is a perfect way of dealing with some of this stuff, is take your downtime, figure these things out. And then sure, I don't care, let you do anything. I guarantee you, if you tell them they have homework to do, then most people will not try to do that anymore. They'll go, all right, fine, I'll turn into a crocodile. Okay. Cool.
Done.
So, just knowledge. Make them have the knowledge for it. Fixes most problems, and then if they just beat you up with it, then you know, they at least put in the effort to make it happen, and you can't fault them for putting in the effort to do something cool.
Good point.
So, well, I hope you guys enjoyed this one, and I hope these ideas help you deal with some of these troublesome spells. Remember, you are there to have fun as well. Players and DMs, everybody's there to enjoy the game.
Mm-hmm.
Don't abuse this stuff. Don't make somebody have to come up with a way to get to stop you. Have fun. This is for fun.
Yeah, it's all about fun.
Huh.
But at the same time, yeah.
Some of these I can legit see why people have a problem with. Get it.
Yeah.
Just think outside the box. Don't be in the box. Be outside the box, and you should be okay.
All right, but until then, have fun at your games and keep rolling those dice, guys.
All right. See ya.